Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. Thanks so much for watching. So I'm going to be doing a series of 3 videos where I review 3 Canon lenses that I've been lucky enough to trial over 14 days over this Christmas. Well, why 14 days you may ask? Actually Canon has this thing where, and this is a great tip for you guys. For 48 hours they let you trial any of their equipment for absolutely free. I'll put a link down in the comments below. They ship you the lens totally free to your home in a box. You use it for 48 hours and then you put it back in the box and somebody comes to pick it up. So how much more free can it be? And you actually get a discount if you want to buy it. Again, I'm not sponsored by Canon in any way. I wish I was, but I just found it like amazing in a way to trial this. And this Christmas, they had a special offer of 14 days for free. So I've actually had these 3 bad boys. So a 7200 2.8 RF lens, so all mirrorless. This very special 85mm 1.2. And the one we're going to be reviewing today, which is a 24-70 2.8. All RF lenses. Let's start the review. Just for you guys to see where I'm coming from. I used to have a Canon 70D and for the last month or so I got upgraded to a Canon R6, and there's a review which will appear somewhere up here that you guys can watch if you find it useful, upgrading from a crop sensor to a mirrorless system and why I love the R6. And on my Canon 70D I had this lens, which is the 24-105 f4. I've now adapted it to the R6, so you'll see here the control ring adapter. I also did a review on this, which should pop up somewhere up there as well if you guys want to know the doubts that I had when I bought it. I absolutely love this combo. I used to love it on the 70D, and on the R6 I love it as well. And now this guy came in. So first, before I give the likes and the dislikes, just a little bit on physical appearance and how I found the lens. I was kind of worried that it would be too big, too heavy. It comes in at 900 grams, so almost a kilo of lens, versus what I used to have, which was 670 grams. However, when putting it on the R6, what I found is the combo of lens and R6, so the R6 is lighter than the 70D, kind of feels the same weight as the old combo of lighter lens plus heavier 70D. So I haven't seen a big difference in what I'm carrying. What I do notice is that the weight is now front heavy. While with the 70D, the weight was more on the camera, so it would be back. Here, I feel that I have to support it via the lens much more. So I put my hand under versus kind of just wobbling it here. And I know you should always grip it well, but I'm getting better at that with the R6. Then, in terms of comparisons, so I'm going to put this next to my old lens. You'll see it's slightly longer, so more or less 2 fingers longer, and it's a little bit wider. So more or less less than a finger wider there. However, if you do have to put an adapter on your old EF lenses, that adds more or less like a finger, finger and a half of length. So with the adapter in place, it isn't that big of a difference. There you go, like almost same height. Let's mount this on the camera. So still going on with physical. You have 2 switches on one side, so the autofocus versus manual focus and the stabilization. Super interesting, the stabilization. So it comes with 5-stop stabilization in the lens, which matches to the IBIS stabilization in the camera. So that gives the total combination of 8 stops of stabilization. I've been shooting with this with the longer focal lenses of it, and it is truly amazing. And then on the other side, you have this lock. So the lock basically avoids any type of lens creep if you have it in the 24. And it's also for transportation so that you're not having the zoom come out. By the way, if you need a hack for lens creep, because it was freaking me out on this lens, which always came out, a link also here up above to a hack that I found out and decided to share with you guys. So on the lens, you have 3 rings. The first one being the zoom ring. You'll see that versus many professional lenses, the zoom has like this kit feel to it because it actually extends the barrel. Although like it's very, very robust. The second one is the focus, and it's focused by wire, so it's electronic focus, not manual. And then the last one is what Canon is incorporating into their mirrorless system, which is the control ring. Now, small note on this one. I probably haven't used a control ring as much as I should, and it's a muscle memory thing. I'm so used to doing the adjustments on the camera that I kind of forget to go there and use a control ring. You can use it for anything that you want. It's configured on the camera. So by default, it's exposure. So when you're halfway through the shutter, you move this and exposure goes up and down. But you can also use it for aperture. You can use it for shutter speed, ISO, any setting that you want to configure here. So it's super, super useful. And actually, of all the lenses that I've tested, and even my old one, this is the one that I've probably used most the control ring. And it's simply a positioning thing. So you normally are zooming here, and quickly I can go to the control ring. If I'm looking at my old lens, the adapter makes the control ring be right next to the camera. So if I'm zooming in and out, I would have to go up to the camera to change it. And that's even a bit more evident in the 70-200. Here is the zoom ring, right at the edge of the lens, and you'd have to go all the way up here for the control ring. So on this one is probably the lens where I use it the least, simply because of positioning, while this one is the one that I've used it the most. Not a major decision in buying a lens, but nonetheless, I find it like the ergonomics of this lens is super nice with the 3 rings close to one another. What about this lens in terms of what I like and I dislike? So in terms of likes, I have 4 things. The first one, and I mean, this is probably the most important thing to look at when you're buying a lens and investing this much, is sharpness. This is a super sharp lens. Like from 24mm to 70mm, like the pictures that I'm taking out of it are super sharp. You can zoom into those details to the eye of the person. You can crop quite a lot. It will be razor, razor, razor sharp. It is really amazing the pictures that you're able to get out of this lens. The second one is the aperture. So that 2.8 allows it to have amazing low light performance, especially in combination with something like an R6. So here's a picture of one of my kids. This is in a dark room. So this is a night with her sleeping. And you'll see like, one, the autofocus actually works, which would never be a possibility in the 70D. So I'm actually able to let the camera find the focus point. But also the pictures coming out of it, even with high ISO, are still very, very usable. And again, this is a dark room. So just see how this lens is able to capture that light. The fourth thing is bokeh. How do you say that word? Bokeh, depth of field, I don't know. So bokeh. The 2.8 allows you to play with that background blur or foreground blur. So when you're taking portraits, when you're sure where you want the person to look, you can kind of make everything else outside of that very, not as narrow depth of field as the 85mm, but pretty narrow, come out of focus so that the eyes of the person watching your picture go to where you want them to see. And I've tried this with portraits, but also having like a fence that goes through and where you want people to stop and look at that fence. So you can have foreground blur and background blur by focusing in separate places. And the 2.8 of this really allows you to play with that. And I think it's something that makes your pictures stand out, especially nowadays that anybody with a camera, with a cell phone can take pretty sharp pictures. And then the fourth thing I really like about this camera is video performance. So it has a nano, what do they call it? Nano USM focus, which is a motor inside of it. And I'm just gonna swap this into video mode and start videoing. And can you guys hear the focus? So you can actually have the microphone assembled on your camera and you're not gonna have that focus noise of the old USM motors. So I have a 50mm USM. And I mean, even this one to an extent, it's impossible to record with a microphone on the camera while you're doing video, simply because you'll get in the sound that tuk, 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 tuk. While this one, it's massively silent. I mean, it's focusing all over the place now, and you don't hear anything. So now that we've talked about the things I absolutely love about this lens, let's talk about the only two that I think that could be slightly improved or different or something that I would look into a lens. So the first thing is the focal length. This is only a 24-70. And the reason I say only is I'm used to a 24-105, which means that I have in one lens a 35mm point, a 50mm, and a 85mm focal lens. Which means that I can kind of use this lens as a workhorse in events without having to swap from one place to another to get a different focal length or a different type of environment that focal length allows me to do. So having that gap from 70 to 105 still usable within one lens makes me swap less, which means I can take more pictures or be more around what I'm wanting to do. And that's the flaw I see of this one. So as it ends at 70, I don't have 85 or even a little bit longer, which makes it a little bit limited. Of course, I can move around and I can like use my legs to get there, but it makes me want to swap to a 70-200 more and more and more. And I found myself over these 2 weeks swapping quite a lot in between these two. So I'd actually start with a 24-70, but then somewhere in the middle, I just swap to the 70-200 and keep that one on my camera for longer and longer and longer. Until some days I just went out with the 70-200. Again, this is like my personal impression, but I remember that I didn't swap that one as much. So that's number one. The second one is actually the price, or what I call, like, let's call it ROI, return on investment of this lens. It's pretty expensive, so it is £2,329 in the UK. Which is pretty sizable. It's almost how much I paid for the full kit of R6 plus a kit lens. So the question I would have is, how much can I get out of it to pay for that price versus getting maybe some cheaper lens like this, even an EF lens adapted, and then a couple of very specific primes that give me better depth of field or better aperture. And that's the only two things that I would have about this lens. I mean, I absolutely love it. I'm sorry to give it back, and I would definitely have it in my arsenal. Maybe one day I will get it, but now if I would have to like choose in between three lenses, being these three on the table, I would probably go for one of the other two. Watch my other three videos and I will definitely tell you which one that is. So guys, hope this was useful for you. If it is, please hit that like button on the bottom, or if you really find all of them useful, hit the subscribe button. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Leave me any comments, feedback. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you agree? Happy to answer you guys and would love to get that feedback coming in. Take care guys and see you in the next video.